Guys, you're back with me, Jen the Taxidermy Witch, and we are still in the series. We're working on Decoding and Understanding Aleister Crowley's Thoth Tarot, okay? It's a difficult deck. There's a lot of differences between it and the Rider-Waite and most common decks. So that's what we're doing in this series. Now, this video in particular, I am going to be telling you guys about the things that I do in procedure for my own personal tarot readings. Now, none of this stuff is coming out of the main book that we've been reading, which is the Handbook of the Cards for the Crowley Tarot, and none of this comes out of this either. This comes out of things that I've picked up along the way from other witches, friends, people I've seen do divination, and my intuition a lot. Some things come basically just from my intuition. So, let's start by saying one of the first things that you should do is you should do some sort of cleansing bath, like if you can sit and soak in some cleansing herbs from your herbal shelf, okay? Some cleansing herbs. We could just do a quick rundown on a couple of them. So if you have this book, Scott Cunningham's Encyclopedia of Magical Herbs, it's a bright green book. In the back, it has a big list of cleansing or purification herbs, okay? So the herbs for purification, it's a pretty large list. I'll say the ones that I have. Anise, bay, wood betony, cedar, chamomile, coconut, copal, fennel, horseradish, hyssop, iris, lavender, lemon, verbena, mimosa, which is also known as angelica root, or that would work as well. Parsley, peppermint, rosemary, sagebrush, thistle, holly, thyme, tobacco, turmeric, valerian, vervain, and yucca. So, those are some things that you could put into a spiritual bath, okay? You could also do some of my floating coconut candles. We made a video of that, and just really get yourself ready. For instance, if you do tarot for your occupation and you have a day of a couple of readings, it's going to be really draining. You can just really, purify yourself before you go into it, okay? Now, that's at home in preparation. Another thing that you need to do in preparation, and I just thought of it, and I didn't think of it before I set up the video, I cover my head. Now here I just have a pair of tights, but if that was the only thing I had, my channel's wacky, y'all, but here's what I would do. I would take the tights, and the big part I'd put on the back of my head. Let's say you were just wearing tights, and you were like, oh, I gotta cover my head. Why do you need to cover your head? Well, you don't. But why do I cover my head? Because spirits, and I ask for help from spirit, and sometimes when you ask for help from your spirit guide in particular, it might not be, there's a lot of muddling that can happen, and you want to cover your head because that's where spirits can really hop in. And also, if you're like going out to the graveyard, anything like that, you just want to cover your head, okay? So this doesn't fully cover my head. Now I could put my hair into a bigger bun. My hair does protect my head, I believe. So, here, let's cover thy head. So do you see what I'm saying? I've covered the bulk of my head. And now I'm ready. And that's why you see a lot of tarot readers with these big headdresses on, is they're protecting themselves. There's my earring. These are cat rib earrings. I also like to use these in divination. There's a lot of thought behind cat ribs helping witches along in what they're doing. So I've always grabbed onto that as well. Let me try and clip my hair up real quick, okay? And then we'll talk about more things. Oh, I know that a lot of you who follow me are interested in the fact that, like, I have dreadlocks and you guys adore them, and I'm so happy that you do. Here's a regular bobby pin, and here's my dread bobby pin. If you don't have these dread bobby pins and you have dreads, I highly suggest them. They're awesome. They're so, so big and thick. So anyway, I'll try and do some videos on dread styles, but see how much I have to do, how much is on my plate. My mind's all over the place. Alright, so now you've prepared yourself. You've done your cleansing bath. If you don't have a bath and you only have a shower, which is my case right now, whenever I'm at somebody's house, I'm like, hey, can I take a bath here? And I just bring my bath stuff, and it's usually family. They're like, yeah, of course. Which is normal in our family, to go somewhere and be like, hey, can I use your bath? Is that going to stay? So, make sure you have some of those big clips or whatever you need to put your hair up. I don't know. You got your cleansing bath. You've got your hair tied up. And you are getting ready. Now, you're going to go to the client's house, or you're going to do it online, either way. But the way I'm going to talk about doing it is this, like a face-to-face in-person type thing, okay? Doing it online, like over the internet, Skype or something, I'm sure you could do it all these same ways. A lot of people who use crystals and stones in their workings, they will bring crystals and kind of do a crystal grid around theirs. That's something that I really want to do with mine, and so I've been adding it in. And if you watch the very first, the intro video to this series, the first black and white video on my channel is the intro video to this series, okay? And so, hopefully that'll stay. There's the back. I have no idea what the back looks like, you guys. You guys know, and I'll see it when I rewatch the video. So there, my head's covered. My dreads are covering my head. These tights are covering around the front. And if I do say so myself, it looks a little fashionable. Alright, so so now let's talk. So another thing to have with you is, we were talking about crystals. So I've got beautiful amethyst, and I know you can't see the color, but they're all points. I've got some quartz points. I've got citrine points. I carry all of my stuff in a briefcase when I go somewhere. And you don't look like you're, carrying a cauldron or something. And I just put all my stuff in a briefcase. And this is something that I just get thrifting, and then I clean it up, wash it up, put a bunch of stickers on it that I like and that I'm drawn to. You could certainly put symbols all over that, on the inside even, so that nobody knew if you were trying to keep it from people. Okay, so if you have like a cloth bag or a Crown Royal bag, I would put your stones in there so that they stay like safe. Some other stones that I've got are these big amethyst chunks. And on the back it's just a rock. And these are just so cool. Alright, but out of all of my stones, I forgot to also talk about the two that I keep on top of my decks. They're the points that I always point them toward the sun or the moon. And then a lot of people have these on top of their deck so that it draws in the energy, okay, from the cosmos. Let's talk about clairaudience. Okay, clairaudience is one of the gifts that I was given as a little girl. When I was out on the farm all of the time, I didn't have a lot of close friends. There were a couple kids in the neighborhood, but when you're 3 years old, you can't walk that far or whatever, like, So, and my brothers are older than me, so I was home alone a lot. Not alone, there were people there, but I was just out in the woods on the farm alone a lot. With the animals, with nature. Really brilliant. So I connected with nature at a really young age because of that, I suppose. But I would, as a little 3 and 4 year old girl, I would hold on to a cow, and I would think in my head, for whatever reason, because I knew that cows couldn't talk, so I didn't talk out loud. I would just hold it. Touching, I remember touching was important to me. Putting my palm on it so I could feel it breathing. Closing my eyes. And telling it things. Like, how is your day? You're so warm. do you like me? Whatever random thoughts a 3, 4, 5-year-old little girl would think to a cow. I was thinking that to it, and I was asking it in questions. And sometimes I would hear things back. And it would sometimes be in a child's voice, it would sometimes be in my own voice. If it comes back to you in your own mental voice, whatever voice you hear when you're talking to yourself, that can be clairaudience too. Don't think it has to come to you in the voice of a cow. It's not going to be like, oh yes, I'm having a great day or whatever. It certainly could. I guess it just depends on the connection, the way your brain works, everything, right? Your influences. Some other great herbs just to have around while you're doing this is mugwort. A stone. This is a Herkimer diamond. This came from my friend Maddie in New Zealand. I believe that they're from New York, funnily enough. This is a Herkimer diamond and it has a point on each side, okay? So I use this when I do my readings, and I keep this, and I believe, if I did it right, I sent one back to New Zealand. So me and my best girlfriend both have one of these. So we're kind of connected because she gave me a gift of 2 of them, but I wanted to have this interesting connection with her. So anyway, another tool that I use to heighten my clairaudience, and that's when you have psychic words come into your head and it sounds like voices, or it sounds like your own voice, or it's a voice that interrupts your own thoughts. That's clairaudience. Now, this doll has no eyes. Do you remember, or do you know, just because of research, that like with the senses, if you take away your sight, your hearing is better? Well, in alchemy, in witchcraft and magic, if you take away first sight, your second sight will heighten. And in American Horror Story, what was her name? The blonde herbal witch. Can't remember her name at the moment. She became blinded, and then she became clairvoyant, which is when you are psychic, pretty much. You can hear people's thoughts. Or just know all truths, right? But then she got her sight back, and it went away, and she was sad. And then she needed it, so she literally blinded herself so she would be clairvoyant again. This doll doesn't have any eyes, and I actually sleep in, I have a really large bed, and I sleep with a lot of my dolls, and I even sleep with taxidermy sometimes when I'm trying to get used to it. I'm not talking about cuddling up next to it. I like have a pillow for certain things that I just keep in the corner. But when you're in sleep, when you're in that subconscious dream state, to me, that's when you can bond with these things that when you're in your awake eye state, you cannot, because there are barriers. Unless you're taking like a psychedelic or something, then you sure can see and hear. Also, I have theories on what you see and hear during psychedelic experiences and what that means, really. So if you guys want to know a video, you want to hear my opinions on that, please put it in the comments below. But I'm not going to make a video on the topic unless I know people are encouraging me in that. Otherwise I keep it private, So, I obviously named her Claire. Her eyes are actually inside. So the man at the store, at the antique store, was like, you could fix her. And I'm like, no, she's perfect. And she's so cute. She's just like a little Dutch, I think, doll. If it's not Dutch, it's... what are these? Swedish, maybe? And she didn't want her hair fixed. This is the way I found her. And she has one bow in, and then this is just braided, and I went to try and fix it. But I kept hearing, no, I like my hair the way it is. No, I like my hair the way it is. And I'm like, I knew I wasn't processing that thought. And I'm like, okay, sweetie. So she's got like a really cool hand-beaded necklace. She's actually Feels like she's porcelain. Oh god, I wish you could get a shot of her eyes like this. They look so crazy. Can you see her eyes in there? They've fallen down below. Anyway, she holds this rose, which my daughter gave me as a gift. And then inside the rose is a piece of mugwort that I grew from my garden last spring, for my spring harvest, the first harvest of it. So yeah, and she's got even shorts and tights, and even underwear under there, lace underwear with like high stockings. I never actually saw how detailed you were, darling. And she's got this beautiful little cap that is stitched on. So, Claire, how do I use her? Sometimes clients don't like for me to set her down and use her when I'm like throwing bones, because that's a divination I feel most comfortable with, is the bone throwing. And so some people don't like for me to just sit her down, so instead I might just put her down below me when I'm setting up, and nobody can see her under my chair because I'll put a cloth over it, but she's sitting under me. That's a good way to put things that you need that your clients might not be attracted to, okay? Even a piece of taxidermy. A lot of people didn't like have Ellen, or my little alligator head. They didn't like having her on the table. I was like, okay, but sometimes I need to touch things. People, though, aren't too thrown off usually, sorry darling, by like a skull. They're usually pretty okay with just a general skull. So for me, I can just kind of place my hand on there and hold on to something like that if I'm able to kind of have a little bit of clairaudience with something like this. Not all of my pieces I can hear things from. It's actually very few in comparison to what I have. But I always do try to get something out of everything, even mannequins, dolls, right? People have heard of spirited dolls. Okay, so we talked about the Herkimer diamond. Okay, and now let's talk about incense, fragrance. No, first, before that, let's talk about easy ones. When you get into the area, you know, if you have a cloth, that's fine. I actually don't have a special cloth. I just have a black piece of cloth that I've cut out in the size that I need. And sometimes I do readings kneeling on the floor with the client because they don't have a table that's big enough for our needs, whatever. So things that you see in an abalone shell a lot of the time. We've got our Palo Santo, and then this smells lovely, and then just general sage, because some people just don't like the smell of white sage, so have a backup. Palo Santo is a great backup, but a smokeless backup, and one that is excellent, is what I usually use, which is my Florida water. Clap 3 times, ask Spirit to be with you, and start at the head, and work down your body. Another great way to cleanse yourself right before, but my travel size is right here. Vintage little guy. I set that right on my table. Doesn't that look so flipping cute? This is from my grandma's collection. So now I have also asked my grandma to be with me when I use this. So I've got grandma there to help me as well. Okay, and I think that that's really beautiful and fantastic. I did a great video of my offering I did to my grandparents when I was there a few months ago. You want to have a candle. A candle will definitely draw spirit to you. And another thing you want to have is something to put it out. These are taxidermy tweezers that I use to put it out. You don't want to blow out your candles in divination. It's my opinion. I always watch that smoke go up after I put it out, though. I always look at that, you know. The reason I don't put it out is because I've read in multiple places that you want to snuff it out, not blow it out, because it interferes with the working that you're doing, the reading that you're doing, what have you. I don't have a snuffer, so I take a pair of taxidermy tweezers and I just gently, I don't push hard because you'll pull it out, I just go up the wick, go from the bottom to the top, and it'll put it out. If it doesn't, just keep trying. Okay, so I have this. I thrift all these cool little things, you know. What else do you want to have? Another thing you can have is a chicken's foot. I sell these on my, anyway. These are really easy to make, and I do videos on how to dehydrate them and do them yourself. However, there are people out there that'll do it for you. They're easy though, and it's so simple to get it accomplished. And as long as you have a dehydrator, you don't mind using just for something like that, or for raw things, or for taxidermy, you know. Another thing, so you take that and you just kind of, where the claws are, see the claws? You pull down your body, and you can just do it right on the edge. You don't have to touch yourself, but, oh, I don't want to scratch these tines. And you start at the head and go all the way down, and it's awesome if you have somebody with you. They can help you with this, get all over your body. And lastly, your legs, and then your feet, and then, whew, you know. Alright, so, but Florida water's a great smokeless option, okay? And that's one I just feel is really strong anyway. But some people like to see you do the sage and the smoke, so ask them, you know. Do what you do, but just say, you know, do you want me to do the sage? Do you want a smoke cleansing? Just ask your client, you know, see what they want. They'll tell you. Alright, another thing that you can do is, I don't know if I feel it spiritually and for people, but when people get readings from me, they often, like, tell me how pretty I am and how they wish they could be like me and all my tattoos, and they adore me, which is so kind, but it also scares me because of this. And of those. The eyes, you know. People don't mean to do it all the time, but a glare, if somebody's jealous of you, if you're an interesting person, people are going to be jealous, because I've been that person, and that's why I'm so interesting these days with all the, like, fun and cat rib earrings and taxidermy and tattoos, is because I am so, like, adoring of interesting people. But one way you can ward off the evil eye, because the evil eye can hurt you, and people don't maybe understand that that is a thing. The evil eye can hurt you. So you really need to make sure that you have one of these beads that come from Greece, or paint it on a chicken's foot and wear it around your neck, or keep it in your car or something to help ward off the evil eye. I've done a whole video on the evil eye, so make sure to check that out. We talked about it for 25 minutes. I went to my old childhood school. We did an outdoor video on that one. It was a lot of fun. Okay, so another thing that you can do to get your mind in the right place. Oh boy, I didn't even think about that until just a second. I did a saffron video. Burning saffron gets you feeling really in touch with spirit, for lack of a better phrase. Really in touch with spirit. Like a loopy-doopy. So don't inhale the saffron smoke and drive. Please don't do that, because it makes you feel a little bit intoxicated, basically, is what I'm trying to say. And so I don't suggest doing this if you're under the age of 21. I mean, but it's sometimes, so, and also if you put it into smokings, just stay back from it if you don't want that feeling. But I quite like it, and I feel like it helps you really connect, open your, it is in the herbal readings that it opens the third eye, if Scott Cunningham said that, and it just makes you feel so connected, and I feel like it heightens that voice that I hear, that clairaudience, okay? So for me, another thing to heighten the clairaudience is inhaling the smoke of this on a coal disc. Now, another thing, not on a, well, this would go on a coal disc, the resins of frankincense, the gummy parts, the part that doesn't turn into powder. Basically, when you crush up frankincense, two things happen. Part of it turns into a powder, and then you keep it in a jar by the door. And then parts of it turn into this gummy resin that doesn't powder up, okay? And that's what happens when you do the fresh frankincense. Oh, I've done so many videos on frankincense, burning resins, all of it. I've showed you how to do it, so, burning that, or the oil of frankincense, burning that in a, like a wax. You put wax up here, and then drips of the oil into the wax, and when the candle burns, it melts that, okay? And clients would like this too. It smells great. It's another smokeless option. It has a candle that's lit, so it might have smoke from a match, but just get a lighter if the client has to have no smoke whatsoever. Also, on one of these, you've got your pentacle, right? So that connects you with tarot because there are pentacles in the tarot deck, as well as the pentacle has a lot of representation. To me, it makes me feel safe. So it might help protect me with my readings, or just make me feel safer and better with that. So I've not actually taken this to a client's house. I've only done readings at my house with this, because like in the car it doesn't cool quick enough, and I can't put it in the briefcase and all that. However, I have a client that will leave one at her house. I do that, you know. But having just that, you know, it's not super cheap, but a little bit goes a long way. You can put some of this right here so that you're smelling it while you're doing your workings. I don't know if there's such a thing, but if there's saffron oil, I would try that and put it here to breathe it. Let's see, what else have I got down here? So we're talking, again, we're talking about, we're in the series of Decoding and Understanding Crowley's Thoth Tarot. But right now we're talking about things that you can have there at your divination. Also, before you lay your cards down, you have your cloth out before you lay your cards down. This is a vintage ostrich duster that I've turned into a besom or besom, or however you say it. I call it my spiritual broom. And I have leather strips from a very awesome piece of suede. I have a giant piece of suede. So, brooming this all over the altar, asking spirit guides, clear this area, clear this space of all energies, and only let our energies be here in this space. And then I keep it in this beaker, because then it'll stand up on my dresser, right? So anyway, that's, if you see that over here, what that is. I do like to have, I mix powdered incenses in here. I just love my science kits and all that kind of thing. I love glass and I love science, so why not? Okay, another thing, we talked about stones. Ooh, you could drink some of this astral travel tea that we made together on my channel, okay? I can try and link that. I can try and link a couple of these things in the comments in the description, but it'll take me a while. So if you search the Taxidermy Witch Astral Travel, I made a video of where I made an oil for astral travel, and I made a tea that you can drink, okay? The tea has things like yarrow, cinnamon, mugwort, I believe chamomile, mullein, a few other things probably. And then in the oil itself, astral oil, before we shake it up, it's kind of layered. There's loads of herbs in here for psychic, like raising psychic abilities, heightening your intuition. There's a cinnamon stick in there for protection, because anytime you do this, you want to stay protected. If you're working with spirit, and if you're working with really trying to connect with spirit and ask them for help with your readings and your divination, then you want to keep yourself good. So the main smell in this is probably yarrow, but clary sage. I used a clary sage essential oil because clary sage essential oil has sedative qualities. And if you know much about the essential oil world, there's, as far as I learned 10 years ago in massage school, there's only one essential oil that has sedative qualities, and it's clary sage. And there are stars. So you know how we have like a 1 out of 10 rating usually? Well, in the essential oil world, there's 4 stars total. 4 is the max. And clary sage is a 4-star sedative. So it's the strongest and the only. Now, please, if somebody knows if that's misinformation or if it's been updated in the last 10 or so years, please let me know in the comments. But this oil smells so good, and I apply it, actually, because it's a gentle to me. It's a gentle oil, and it's never disrupted my skin. I apply it right over my third eye. I also might put a dot of my own personal DNA over my third eye before the working. However, if I did that and I did the working for a client, I would put makeup over it in the form of like a couple of stars in eyeliner or something like that. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to walk around with a dot of blood on my forehead just because it would make people uncomfortable, not because it makes me uncomfortable. If you need more details on what kind of DNA that is, just ask. So I think we've talked about everything that I've laid out. When you are getting used to the Crowley Tarot, the Thoth Tarot, there's 2 books that I highly suggest, and I've done a video on these books talking about them, kind of a preview on them. These 2. This is a vintage book that I found by Aleister Crowley, and it's got more information on the minor arcanas. And then this book has got so much information on the majors and a lot on the minors. And then it just talks about all the different spreads they've got. And I've done a video. I'm going to be going through this whole entire book and reading the whole entire thing to you. As a matter of fact, we are finally going to start our first card, which is the Fool. This will be the closing to this video. If I realized I left anything out of this video, I'll be talking about it in the next one. So thank you for joining me, Jen the Taxidermy Witch, while we talked about all the things that you can do to prepare yourself for divination of the Thoth Crowley Tarot, or what I do for preparation. Alright? Have a beautiful day, you guys. Thanks for joining me, Jen the Taxidermy Witch. Ta.